Okay, well, here I am. Since I am in Mexico, my name is Carlos Miguel Prieto. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the conductor of the Louisiana Philharmonic, and I'm here in the middle of Mexico. And I'm actually have a little something for you. That's this. That's just to get a little bit of feeling from where I am, and makes me so happy to hang out with two of my best buddies from the LPO, and just my great colleagues and friends, Patti Adams and Jim Atwood, who are actually founding members of the Louisiana Philharmonic. So since this is the first time that I participate in this amazing meeting, I actually chose both of you because both of you epitomize the Louisiana Philharmonic for me. So how are you, Patti? How are you, Jim?
We're doing great. Quarantined in our little house in the Garden District. I'm trying to keep up with cooking like everybody else.
But at least we're not having to homeschool the way you are. Can't imagine we could do that. We have instead our two doggies who are really confused with the fact that we're here day long now. They're loving it.
Our doggies are very happy to have us at home.
Yep. Well, let me tell you something. First of all, you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the homeschooling thing is fascinating, but I just want to send any teacher that's watching, listening, or will be watching or listening, a big hug and a big thank you and a big show of admiration, because you must have a combination of patience, knowledge, flexibility that I am yet to find, which doesn't mean that I haven't looked for it, but I never knew how difficult it would be to have three different kind of tempi at the same time,
right.
Three different characters interacting with me, some of them nicer than others, and actually trying to make it through the day and make it through their school. So I can only imagine when a teacher has 30 in the same classroom. Oh my God. So big appreciation. Have you ever taught in a school, Patti or Jim?
No, just at Loyola and privately, of course, like all my colleagues in the orchestra. But it's been amazing to do the online teaching, I have to say, and the students have just been amazing. You know,
as for my instrument, of course, trying to teach online, I describe it. It's sort of like trying to get lessons via text messages. But it'll be interesting to see when all this is over, the next time the issue of teacher pay raises comes up, to see if anybody argues against it.
So I'm actually in for anyone who knows Mexico, so that you place where I am in a little town called Zihuatanejo, which is a very small population. And it's a idyllic place where you cannot use what's the most idyllic about it, which is the ocean. So the reason why is because of the limitations, because I think maybe if people would come here for the ocean, it would become too populated. So, but I'm connecting with nature, and I'm connecting with music, and connecting with my friends and with my family. And I've actually been very much in contact with members of the LPO, also with our common friend Stephen Hales, who's been my contact as far as telling me how things are in New Orleans. And and so I'm here, but I'm also there. But you know this that song that you know what it means to miss New Orleans. That's what I'm feeling right now, because that's where I would be right now, and I hope it won't be too long. But anyway, I didn't want to talk about these days. What I wanted to ask you is just to, you know, we all started in the LPO in kind of rocky moments, didn't we?
I hadn't thought about that. You're absolutely right. I had always thought that you started at an awkward time, but now that you mention it, we sort of started at the most awkward time ourselves. And yet we have persevered, and we will continue to persevere, I'm sure.
I think there's one thing that's really unique about the LPO is how nimble we've always been and surviving all kinds of challenges. So for you to sign your contract the week before Katrina hit was really pretty remarkable. And you came anyway.
I never thought of not coming. You know, the truth is that as you know, uh, the power of an orchestra, the emotional, the artistic, just the importance of an orchestra is so big that there's no doubt that that it always transcends things that seem to be too big to transcend. And so I think it's very uplifting for me to have this conversation with you, because you started from zero and you actually put all of this together. And on the last day that we saw each other, Jim, you asked me to thank a lady who had made possible that concert, which was in the cathedral, and it was a concert that had no audience. It had no live audience, which at the moment felt like, well, odd. But I've thought so much about the fact that you had to look for donors and you had to look for people who made the LPO start, and that's something that has made for these 30 or 31 or whatever number of years the LPO has been going on, and a few generations of musicians after you, in which I include myself. So we all owe you and your colleagues a huge debt of gratitude, because you know, we now have to keep it going, but you had to start it, and that's, to me, that's something that is so admirable. The fact that sometimes out of necessity and out of sheer imagination and wanting to play music, one comes up with these saviors and these people who make your life possible. And so I take a lot of inspiration from you, and whenever we have one of these meetings about the future of the LPO and how do we ride this wave, I always say, hey, listen, these guys started from zero, and these guys didn't have any kind of pandemic to point at. They just imagined something. So I think that we need to take advice from you and take the leadership from you and take the energy from people like you, and also from people like me who now have been together with you for almost 15 years. And you know, Katrina was Katrina, and it was an incredible disaster, but it was my start, and I think that now will be a different thing. You know, we're gonna have an opportunity, the three of us and all our colleagues, to do so much good for so much people in ways that we've never known. Okay, we normally go to our concerts, we put on nice suits, and we take our instruments and we start playing, and the baton and all that, and I come out. But maybe the way we will interact initially will be different. Maybe, Jim, you and I will be doing acrobatics while Patti will be drawing, and while a string quartet will be playing. but we will have to imagine a way to connect with so many people that want to connect with us. So since I'm really having a conversation with so many more of you than just the two of you, I want you to come up with ideas so that we can connect as simply as this. But then come September or whenever we're back in form with people in front of us, we can give the gift of music to people live in a way that we've never done before, as far as creatively, as far as contact with the audience. I've had so many ideas that I'm just like full of energy, and I want this to be over to try them. But one of the first things that I want you to do, and I know that you will do it, is, Patti, for you to design some huge kind of poster or artistic creation that will be hanging on top of the orchestra, and that will be thanking the medical community and everyone who served people, and you with your creative arts and us with our whatever way we can do it. We will honor the people who are in the trenches. Will you take that challenge?
Absolutely. I've just finished working on a wine label for the orchestra. A wine label. So the orchestra is going to come out with a commemorative bottle of wine for the 30th anniversary.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we've got a committee of people working hard on that, and there's going to be a wine tasting. I'm excited.
And let me ask, do you know that there are places in Mexico where alcohol is not being sold? Did you know about this?
That would be difficult.
Can you imagine? I
No.
was just thinking, hopefully they won't do this in New Orleans, because if they do this in New Orleans, the price of alcohol would just shoot through the roof, right?
It would be an insurrection, probably.
So, the magnificent thing about kind of going into like absolutely unknown territory is that, at least where I am, there are some areas that go back to trading in a different way. The other day I traded 2 fish for some vegetables and fruits. Two live fish that I actually had acquired, and I went and I traded them. And then when I came home, somebody told me that I had made the worst deal, that those 2 fish were worth about 3 times more vegetables and fruits than what I had gotten. So the next day I went to the gentleman who traded with me, and I said to him in a very nice way, I said, look, you actually took advantage of the fact that I look ignorant or that I don't know what I'm doing, and you gave me about 5 times less papayas than I wanted. And he said, well, here are 4 papayas for free. Okay, so can you imagine? Okay, you know my life, and you know how my life was. Having to actually trade papayas for fish. And this is something which actually I know eventually will be useful, because I know this is crazy. Nobody wants this, and nobody deserves this, and this is decimating the world. But I really, my dream is that we take from this experience something that makes our institutions better. And if there's something about the LPO that gives me so much hope, is the fact that it is a very flexible organization. So it is so flexible that you have 67 musicians who are willing to do crazy things, and you better be willing, because we're going to do them. And I think come the time when we're back playing, we are going to do a lot of good. and a lot of good at the same time. So, I imagine a wind quintet playing here, a string ensemble playing elsewhere, a brass and percussion playing. So I want to tell the audience and our friends, the LPO family, that not only are we there, we're waiting for the first chance to come back with so much energy and imagination, because we need you and you need us in a way that we cannot imagine. The first time I took this in my hands, and this is a violin, I made one sound and I could not stop crying. Okay, and I'm really not. I'm not such a crying person in either in public or in private. But just the first moment I took this, I said, "How beautiful is this? And why have I been thinking for 2 or 3 weeks that this is useless in the new world?" BS, this is the new world. Okay, so instead of thinking in so many ways, what is important is here. Where is the heart? Which side is it? Here, 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 and here. So that's why there's so much hope, because in this, I see two of the people who have put the most heart for this institution. So I want you to share with me some of your dreams for the following years.
Carlos, I want to tell you a story about one of the first concerts we gave when we came back after Katrina. It was at Tulane in Dixon Hall. And at that time, as you know, we were giving concerts everywhere. And we had a pretty good audience in Dixon Hall. And it was one of our very first concerts back. After the last piece, I can't remember what but after the last piece, there was a lot of applause. We took our bows, and as the applause died down, still on stage, somebody in the back of the hall at the top of their voice, "You," and it was really a wonderful moment. We really realized at that moment how much people did, and what a contribution we were making in everybody's life. It's a wonderful thing. And I'm sure it's going to be something like that when we come back finally. I'm sure we'll come back in many different ways, but I know we're going to be back with our audiences and making a contribution to the community that nobody else can make, really.
And of course, how could I not remember that concert? That concert included so much Ravel that since then, I've said, okay, I will never put so much Ravel in a concert ever again, because nothing will top that. And that was in Dixon, and we've had so many incredible experiences together. And one thing which always makes me so happy is to see in the audience faces that I know, and then to get to know them in person. And that's one of the advantages of being somewhere for a long time. I have to share with you, well, of course, when a conductor is anywhere for a long time, you always have in the back of your mind, well, this is too long, they need to see somebody else, et cetera. But on the other hand, there is this kind of very nice relationship with the audience and very nice relationship with the orchestra, which I think at this point is a plus, because the fact that, well, I see the audience in the supermarket, or I see the audience in the school of my kids, or at a Saints game, or wherever, is something that that makes me connect with them. And one thing which I've always thought about, and I think it'll become a reality, is that orchestras are actually operating very similarly to the way they were operating 60, 70, 80 years ago, while we could have a different connection with the audience. And this is one thing where your colleagues at the Artistic Partnership Committee and the different meetings that we've had, we've actually come up with so many creative ideas to connect with the audience that I think we're gonna break new ground in many ways. And one of those ideas is to use digital equipment like we are using now in a much more creative way, as far as communicating with the audience right before the concert, right after the concert, and even during the concert, so that we can have a more candid back and forth conversation with the audience. You know, I always do these talks half an hour before the concert, and there's a very loyal couple hundred people, and I always feel very happy about it. But I've always wondered, you know, what would happen if instead of that, as I'd be riding my bike, as you know, from Uptown to the Orpheum, I'd be recording my thoughts as they come to my head while I'm riding my bike, and I can share that live with the audience. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, that would be like, well, here I am, I'm, you know, riding down St. Charles. We're going to play Mahler Third Symphony, and well, that's a pretty long piece, and it's a pretty amazing piece. It's at the end. We're gonna have a very nice conversation. Or you, Jim, I mean, you can actually stop between one movement and the other and say to the audience, why is it that the next movement is especially fun for you? Why do you have to do the things you have to do in your drums? And Patti, maybe you can share with the audience the fact that a certain Rossini overture has a very scary piccolo solo, etc. But these are no-nos, right? When have you stood up and said to the audience, you know, I'm so scared about this piece because it has a very difficult piccolo solo? I don't think anybody cares if you do. By the way, do you remember the last time at the HNOC what happened?
I'll never forget it. Yeah, I'll never forget it.
Can you share with us?
Sure. We had just played Semiramis, Overture to Semiramis, as the ending piece at our last year's Historic New Orleans collection, these wonderful concerts that we collaborate with Historic New Orleans collection at the St. Louis Cathedral. And it's always a sold out, standing room only concert, 1,000 people sitting out there, and it's carried live on television all around the state. And we had just finished playing the Semiramis, which is always hair-raising for any piccolo player anywhere on the planet. And we were packing up, and one of the violinists turned to me and said, Patti, someone's trying to get your attention over here. They want to say hello. And I looked over to my right, and it was Walfrid Kujala, who had just retired as the solo piccolo player with the Chicago Symphony, who was at the concert. And I turned to the flute section and I said, hey, you guys, Wally Kujala is here. And I saw them all take a beat, like, did that go okay? Yeah, it went great. Hi, Wally. So then it was a real thrill for me when he came over and I got to introduce you to him. And then we got to have that picture together, which I treasure.
And what would have happened if instead of learning after, somebody would have come up to you right before and said, Mr. Kujala is in the audience?
Mr. Kujala would have never allowed that to happen. Played that solo way too many times. You would not want to know that Wally Kujala was in the house. No, but he was very, very lovely and was very complimentary of not just the piccolo, but of the whole orchestra and your energy, and really loved it. He came down to New Orleans for a surprise weekend, and he with his daughter and his son-in-law, and they just came to New Orleans and saw we were playing a concert. They basically came here to eat. And then they saw we were giving a concert, and they came to the cathedral to hear our concert. So it was an enormous thrill for me.
Had you met him in person before?
Yes, yes, I've known Mr. Kujala for years, and we've been really colleagues through this big flute organization we both belong to, the National Flute Association. And I remember him calling me actually when I first started playing with the New Orleans Symphony. We were playing for the first time, I was playing a big Shostakovich Symphony, number 10. And he called me about a committee issue, of a committee we were both on. And he said, "So, what are you guys playing tonight?" And I told him, and he said, "Ooh, what fingering are you using on that cell phone?" I have a very fond relationship with him, and did his actually a portrait of him that I was commissioned by the Northwestern a music faculty to do a portrait of Wally on his retirement from teaching there. So I just adore him, and it was really thrilling for him to be at our concert that night.
So how long have you been teaching at Loyola?
I've been there since 1997, and Jim has been longer.
Oh,
I've been there since 1980.
I can't hear Jim.
Can you hear me now? I've been there since 1988.
1980?
88.
Okay, and 88. So let me ask you, because since we talk about this issue about teaching and homeschooling and all that, one thing that I think is quite amazing is how kids can develop on their own given the right motivation, and how some depend so much on a teacher. Is this something that you've seen where sometimes something like this situation makes somebody absolutely bloom into a different level? And do you think that this will happen?
And I think it depends on the students, of course. One of the things I always say about students, some students you have to push and pull and drag and try to push them every step of the way to make them better. But every once in a while, that magic student comes along, and you know that there's nothing you can do to keep him from being great. This person will be great no matter what you do. You're just sort of there to point the way. And yeah, I suppose in a situation like this could be better. Actually, I'm teaching someone um, um, in Idaho right now who is a really fine student, and I don't think we would have made this connection had it not been for the situation we're in right now.
And you, Patti, I mean, in this situation, are you teaching many people?
Yes, I'm teaching all my Loyola flute students, and we also have flute ensemble. So it's really been interesting to get them each to do a part. I had a student put the film together of all the parts with a click track. I think all of us are learning amazing new skills. And I really agree with Jim. I think any student who is really great at self-motivation, it's basically, it's a privilege just to be there to witness. And other times you really have to figure out a way to make someone believe that they can still do it, no matter the hardships they're experiencing. And especially during this quarantine, so many people are experiencing so many difficulties, with their home life, the home situation, the problems with internet. Some people don't have computers. It's been very, very challenging for these students. And so, in fact, I know a lot of Loyola students, in fact, took some of their tuition money and gave it to the food bank here in New Orleans, or did a lot of volunteer work delivering food to elderly people or people that are shut in. And so it's been really inspiring to see what all these students have been doing, and to see them really blossom over the past 7 weeks that we've been having our lessons online. So I think it's been great. And I also did a really interesting thing with the whole flute class at LSU. Their teacher had to record a bunch of piccolo excerpts, and I was able to listen to each of the recording and give them feedback as if they were taking a piccolo audition with the LPO. So that was interesting for them.
So since I'm not there in New Orleans, you are able to walk around, what, right? Carefully, but you can walk around. Is that right?
Yeah, we can. I was telling somebody today, I've never seen so many people walking their dogs during the day, so many times during the day. We're all getting the most walking exercise we've ever gotten before, and we're all eating much more than we ever have before.
Okay, well, I guess one is good and the other one is good in a different way, right? And does anybody, are you allowed to like bring out your flute and play, or would that be considered a no-no?
Oh no, I've been playing back here in my art studio actually. I got a big collection of Bach solos, and I've been back here playing Bach. That's what comforts me, is to play Bach.
You know something? Yeah, Jim.
The other day we were sitting, we have dinner out on it. We have a little porch in front of our house. We were out on our porch having dinner, and somebody came down the street on a bicycle with a carriage in the back, and there was this girl in the carriage playing violin.
Yeah.
Speaker, and she had a loop, and she was accompanying herself, and she was just playing. And when they got to when they first got near us, I ran inside and grabbed a hand drum. So when they got to our house, I started playing along with him, and we had a little duet there going, and people brought out their cameras, and all of a sudden there was a little crowd out here watching us. We made music for 5 minutes, and it felt good to make music with a human being for a change. And then they were gone.
You know, the other day, when I actually went to the supermarket in Zihuatanejo, which is a little town, and I heard a mariachi that was self-distancing in a way that I thought that was just so creative. First of all, the trumpet players had all their trumpets encased in these like these bottles, and they were each looking a different way. So one was looking here and one was looking back, and they were completely, I mean, there was nothing wrong with the way they were distancing themselves. And they were playing, and people were walking by, and they were crying and laughing and whatever. And of course, within like 10 minutes, they were dispersed by the police, because anything that attracts a crowd will, is considered dangerous. But I said, the creativity of people sometimes, in order to do what they love, is boundless. And that's why I, of course, with a lot of care and with a lot of control, I know that we're going to be back in very creative ways. And something people maybe don't know so well, especially classical, non-classical fans, is that there's so many fabulous pieces for very small ensembles. And actually, we never play them because we have a huge orchestra. It's a big orchestra, 70 plus musicians. So why do we play ensembles of 4, 5, 6? Well, now we are actually in the very interesting and difficult position of having way too much small repertoire that everybody wants to play and that we have to choose, which actually means that when we start, and of course we will start whenever we're allowed to, given the limitations, but we're going to have so many chances to play wonderful music. I mean, actually, pretty much everything Bach ever wrote can be played in a living room, right? And sung in a living room. So truly speaking, there is so much that we can do. Handel, Stravinsky, and one thing, I made myself a list of chamber or small orchestra works that could be interesting to explore over the next few months and years. And you know, the two periods or the three periods of time that produced the most of these were, of course, Baroque period, early classical period, and then the next two are actually the years around the First World War and the years around the Second World War, which means that in the times of difficulties, the creative and the genius of humankind is so big that actually people find a way around these limitations. Of course, we all know that there are financial things that we have to deal with, but again, that should be the easy part, actually. I know it's not easy, but we will get around that. What I want to send out the message loud and clear to our audience, and I'm seeing some messages here, actually, so some from my friends, the pews, who don't miss a concert, is that we are dying to be back with you. And we are dying, and we have so much repertoire that we actually have more repertoire than we can fit in a season. But we have so many opportunities to play, and we will have, that we will really, if we thought we were flexible, Patti and Jim, now we're going to have to be flexible, because now we're going to have to be playing maybe in 2 or 3 places at the same time. And that will be possible. And I also think that the audience and us, we will figure out a way to make every single performance special in a way that's not necessarily about the music, but that's special to commemorate something special. And I've said it every time I have a chance to speak with somebody from New Orleans, but the first time that we play a piece of music in New Orleans, I'm going to be thinking and be giving my heart and the orchestra's heart to Ellis Marsalis, and to Ellis Marsalis, and as himself, as a representative of so much that is from New Orleans, which is a musician from the heart like I've never known any other, and also a victim of this terrible thing. But I'm so clear that, you know, if 67 musicians tell me, Carlos, you cannot do it, it will be the first time in 15 years that I will contradict you, and I will turn around and I will say something. And guess what? I hope that we can have members of his family, they're talented, with us to honor him, and to honor him also in name of other fallen people. And then we have so many other people to honor, and so much. But actually, for me, the most fascinating thing is that people still question, well, will the arts be back? Well, I want to tell something to our audience, which is interesting. Guess what is the first thing, the first collective thing that happened in Germany before they even thought about coming back from Bundesliga, which is now on the 15th or 16th of May, was Berlin Philharmonic. Well, that was the first thing before churches, before anything collective, is let's see if Berlin Philharmonic can play a concert. And they put together a wonderful.
It was a wonderful concert last Friday.
Yeah. So, you know, the truth is that if we value what we have, we will find a way. And of course, we know that Germany is special. In Germany, the arts and music is actually, hi Eva, Liebhaber, is she sending us here? Hello, hola, pura vida. You know, the truth is that so it's impossible not to be back, and it's impossible not to want to be back. And, you know, Germany supports the arts in a very special way. Hopefully we will find partners that you know, believe that we need to be back, and we will have partners. So you know, since you both, I'm here trying to point to you, but I don't know how to point here correctly. So since you both put this together 30 something years, well, guess what? We're gonna have to do it again.
Starting over.
We're starting over. But you know something, now you have 67 buddies and more that are behind you. So keep the ideas flowing.
I think the more unexpected we can make things, the more fun it'll be for everybody.
Musicians are very
Yes.
creative people.
Oh yes. You know something that I was thinking in one of the artistic committee meetings is that we should actually have concerts that are not only about music but are about things that connect with music. So, Patty, I actually proposed you without your consent. And I was thinking about the fact that maybe while the orchestra were playing, you could be doing something in the wings or in front of people so that you are painting something or you're coming up with something live. I also thought of having Jean Jobert, who's an amazing dancer, uh, playing her cello and walking around, or having Molly work out behind the orchestra, and so many people. I know I'm crazy, but it's too much of this being quarantined that makes me even crazier. But what I want to find is the individuality of each of you, because some of you I know your quirks and you know my quirks, but there are some people who are shy. But the truth is, how I know that they're not shy is because sometimes after the concert, I go to the bar that's outside the Orpheum a little bit to the left. And there I see the personality of those people who I thought were shy. So I want those personalities to come up on stage without the bar or without the beer before. And there's so many things that we can do. I mean, that I was thinking, well, maybe we can invite some of these musicians who play and who improvise. I'm actually learning to improvise. And that's something I have to tell you is the scariest thing in my whole musical life, is take my violin again here with me and start playing something that sounds like D major, and then modulate and improvise. And every single day I become a little bit better. And I'm trying to break a mold that was here, which is just playing what's written on paper. And, I don't know if I'll ever get anywhere, but the fact of having no limits, nothing to work on with my violin for tomorrow or with my scores for after tomorrow is giving me the chance to learn something which I've admired in musicians that I see in New Orleans, or with Paquito de Rivera, or with any of the wonderful people who improvise. And I have found that it's a psychological thing that is just saying, okay, I'm terrible at it, and then the next day I'm a little bit less terrible. So I'd like to ask you, do you improvise?
Well, every time I improvise, my husband laughs and says it sounds like Mozart because I start playing scales and arpeggios. But I have memorized a couple of jazz solos.
Yes, but that's not improvising.
No.
When you talk
So it,
improvising, most people think about jazz, but jazz is just a voice. You can also improvise a fugue, or you can improvise a Mozart sonata, and that's a great place to start. Most people don't think of that as improvising, but when Mozart was writing, improvising.
oh yeah, that's actually something that I talk about with Gabriela Montero, our friend who's a pianist who's so fantastic, is how her improvisations actually sound like complete pieces of music that hopefully somebody would write down. And then she told me once, I hope nobody ever does, because then that completely screws up her mind. But guess how old she was when she or her parents found out that she had an ability to improvise? She was 2 years old. So she did not know music. She did not read anything. She just found out by playing on a piano that she had a way to improvise, and that's made a significant part of her career. And so I actually have a new obsession, which I've shared with some friends in the UK, young people, because I think young people in conservatories are taught in a boxy way, that they should all be able to improvise, or they should all have something to say from their own homeland, or from their own family, or from their own religious background. But when I see a fabulous musician in an orchestra who cannot stand up and say, here is what I grew up listening to in the synagogue or playing, and I want to play it for the whole orchestra. This thing is very important to me in young people, asking them to get rid of this idea of always being judged and always having to do things correctly or exactly the way it's on paper. And I want them, and I want myself, to grow in a way that's less boxy and that's more spontaneous. And that's why I'm trying to teach myself to do that, and not to teach anyone to do that, because I'll never be good at it, but at least I can see how frightening it is. But I can perfectly envisioning the moment where, especially with an orchestra that's flexible enough, I will ask the orchestra, well, please improvise and please just make up the music as it goes along. That's what's happening in the rest of the music world. So there is this still disconnect between the classical and the non-classical, in the sense that we are playing what's written on paper. And I think we have a long way to go in New Orleans in order to reach the level of liberty and creativity of our colleagues in the street and in the different clubs. Don't you think so?
Well, that's the kind of city we live in. It's an improvisation every day out in the street.
New Orleans is.
And do you improvise, Jim?
I can sit at the piano and make up a Mozart sonata or something like that. I don't really play jazz. I do on drums, but I enjoy playing on the piano.
He makes up things on the piano all the time.
Yeah. And on what about timpani?
I guess I never thought about that. It would be really easy. There are only 4 choices.
It was really lovely the other day, Carlos. Jim went out to the orchestra's warehouse and visited his drums because we made this video, and it was really moving. He made a little video of himself when he saw his drums for the first time. It was so wonderful to see how happy he looked when he saw his drums, when he unpacked them and set them all up.
I was thinking
Not his instrument here at the house like I can.
I was thinking about that when you were talking about your violin, Carlos. I was surprised. I went out there to record a little timpani thing as part of one of the things we did with the orchestra, and I was amazed how great it was just to take my drums out of the trunk and see them again. I didn't realize how much I missed it.
And could you play a little bit?
Yes, he played a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been out there a couple of times since to practice. I don't know what the industrial area of Clearview is thinking about what they're hearing. They must think a storm is coming.
And I hear that the weather has been pretty nice, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what all this would be like if it were in the dead of summer and we were all trapped inside. Absolutely inside.
We've been having Zihuatanejo weather every day.
So share with us some of your dreams going forward. How do you want to come back? What do you want to do when we're back?
play music with my colleagues.
That's right. That's right. I'm just looking
We
forward to
miss
being
it.
on stage with 70 other people playing anything.
Just
A friend of ours who's a music director in town, he sent me a YouTube video of their church service, which is being carried live on YouTube. And he had a recording of he and I playing the Bach Sonata together. And when he sent me the video, I started crying because I was making music with someone. I was so happy.
yeah, yeah. And can I say something? Because one kind of sad thing here is here on Sunday is Mother's Day. I don't know when is Mother's Day in New Orleans. Is it this
Yes,
Sunday?
it's Sunday.
So I actually, since I have my violin and I've completely lost any kind of like shame by now if I played, but I want to play Mexican Happy Birthday to Mothers. Is that okay?
Please.
Okay, so it's just the as you know, it's longer, but that's all. That's all. I haven't lost all sense of shame, but to me, I think it's nice to remember, so many of the people who are actually incapable of going out and seeing their kids or seeing their family on Sunday. So that's why I wanted to play. This is called Las Mañanitas,
See.
and it's the Latin American version. I once said it's Mexican Happy Birthday. I said it in an orchestra that included Guatemalans, Hondurans, Costa Ricans, and half of them just came up to me and said, "You are lying. This is Guatemalan Happy Birthday." Well, let's not argue. Let's say it's Latin American Happy Birthday. And whenever there's a birthday in an orchestra in Mexico, instead of starting with whatever music we are starting with, there comes Las Mañanitas. And the version I just played would have been maybe 5 or 10% the length of Las Mañanitas. So the length of Las Mañanitas would be like 3 to 5 minutes long. And then comes hugging and all kind of embracing, and about 15 to 20 minutes worth of the rehearsal. Imagine that in the US, where we count rehearsals. So then at the end of the rehearsal, there goes the conductor saying, "Oh, you owe me the 15 minutes from Las Mañanitas." So I go a little bit over time, but I just wanted to play a little bit for that. But maybe the next time we meet, I'll come up with some kind of other ideas. I don't know. Do you know how much time? Oh, we have actually. Is that 5 minutes?
5 more minutes.
We still okay with time? I haven't seen many questions. Oh, 4 minutes. So I haven't seen many questions. I just see a bunch of very, very nice mentions about you and about the orchestra, and all. This is something that we can do many times again with more of you. Have you seen any of your colleagues around walking, or nobody?
No, we've only seen people on this Zoom screen. It's so good to see you. We've missed seeing you.
Yeah,
Well,
it's always great to see our colleagues in Zoom meetings we have. But this is a real treat, Carlos, to have you here tonight.
well, it's been very, very nice to me because, as you know, I've always liked you so much, and I see you as such important figures for the orchestra.
Thank you.
And I both involved in different committees and things, and the challenges we have, but we're not the only organization that has challenges today, and we're gonna find a way. There's absolutely no doubt we're gonna find a way. And any ideas from the audience, any ideas from you, from people that you see around, or from people that you are welcome. Uh, there's a question here. Oh, here I just found a way to get the questions. Question from Alan Sampson or Mason. When are you coming back, Maestro? From the bottom of my heart, whenever I can. I'm just dying. Here we go. Howard Pink, I'm looking forward to the John Reeks Zoom with alumni LPO musicians and to see how you are going to use our videos. Cool. Eva sends hello. I love everything about this. Emily Owens, that's so heartwarming. Kira Nangadi, so Patty and Jim are busy teaching, but aside from selling fish, how do you conduct in quarantine, Kiran? I cannot conduct anything on quarantine. I cannot even conduct my kids. So can you imagine what this must be like? But I'm actually learning to live a different life. The 3 weeks before the quarantine were an example of what my life was. I was 1 week in 1 week in Mexico, and then I skipped to Wales, and then from Wales back to Mexico, and from Mexico to New Zealand, and New Zealand to New Orleans, and then stop. And we've stopped since then. And I've reached the conclusion that as much as I miss my past crazy life, there is something about that past crazy life that's unfair to my family, that's unfair to my health, and that's unfair to my friends. So I want, and that's just maybe myself psychoanalyzing myself in front of you. I want to find a better balance coming back, which means that one of the things that I will explore along with you is longer periods of time with you so that we can interact more, so that we don't see each other just for 3 rehearsals or 4 and then the concert, but we actually spend more time together and playing music and playing chamber music. So you'll find a different person when I'm back. And I know that we are going to have a lot of fun. Who knows when, but we'll be back.
We will be back.
We'll be back.
I think I don't know how to end this, or whether it's supposed to end like boom at 8. I'm waiting for some kind of communication to know. I'm still oh, here it is. You guys can go a little longer. Do you want to go a little longer? I'm having a good time.
Sure.
Are you?
Sure.
Are you hungry?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
These days, Carlos.
Carlos, you got a question here?
Okay. Wait. Can you read it for me? Because I lost it.
This is from Jonathan Pugh. I really miss your pre-concert talks. And yes, you could talk to some of your favorite pieces of music in a future podcast.
Yes, of course, that's something that I have started to do actually in Spanish, and I will do it in English little by little. The problem that I've had is that for the first 3 or 4 weeks, I was completely incapable of listening to anything, because truly speaking, and I'm going to get a little bit serious here. I went from initial phase of denial and grief And then a phase, I don't know if you had this phase, but I had a phase of believing I had the coronavirus. And I don't mean that I felt bad, but I felt that suddenly I said, what if the fact that food does not taste to me as much as I think it should, then am I doing bad? Well, then I think I went over that phase. And then I had a little bit of a difficult phase of a bit of anxiety, and so much that I went to a doctor and I said, I want you to do some tests on me and see if my oxygen is okay. And this doctor, he said, well, I think you're going to be like the 20th person this week that has the exact same thing. And it's just anxiety. And I want you to just know that you're okay, and know that you're with your family, and know that life goes on. So that phase, I'm past it now. But you know, I would be lying to you if I didn't admit that I've had a very hard time, and that within this hard time, music is something that makes me extremely emotional, and that I'm just going back to. And now I'm going back to with a vengeance. And that's why I have my violin here, and my kids are going crazy because I make them play scales. Um, for the non-musicians, scales are actually ba 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 ba, and they got nothing to do with fish. And so I make them play scales. I do this thing with improvisation, and I've started little by little to talk about music. So I'm going to do a program in English about Copland's Third Symphony, which is a piece that I recorded with the Orchestra of the Americas. Then I'm going to do a podcast about the Three-Cornered Hat of Falla. And then I have some podcasts coming out of interviewing musicians such as yourselves, who have very interesting lives. I interviewed a horn player, fabulous horn player from the Met, an incredible bassist from the Concerto, a percussionist from Minnesota, Fernando Mesa, who you may know, Jim, and if Eva is still there, I know Eva knows Fernando. And this idea of connecting with musicians, for me, is very important. You are the first tool from the LPO. But if we can keep this going, I think it would be very, very nice, at least to me. And if you have any suggestions as to how to conduct these in the future, Patti, Jim, go for it.
No,
I
this has
think
been
it's great.
yeah.
And do you think that we could include maybe some of the youngest members of the orchestra? Because what I would like for them to know from you directly is, what 30 years ago, what did you have to do 30 to make this orchestra happen? And I don't think many of the youngest members know this directly. I think they may assume and they may imagine, but I think if we could have one of these where you tell the story of the orchestra to some of the youngest members, I think it would be worth it, because we have very young members of the orchestra who are a very important part of the orchestra, and they can play some of the roles that you played 30 years ago, and I guess partly the role that I played 14 or 15 years ago. And I just have to say that, you know, if 14 or 15 years ago I came out swinging after Katrina, now I'm going to come back swinging twice as hard, because I know the orchestra better, I know the city better, I know the potential better. And if 14 or 15 years ago I thought that this city was special, now I think is the most musical place in the world. And the most musical place in the world cannot be devoid from a sensational orchestra.
Thank you. Really
I've left you speechless.
I totally agree.
So I think,
That's why we did it 30 years ago. We couldn't imagine New Orleans without an orchestra.
yeah. And, you know, what's interesting is that this happened right before we were going to have a very special gala. And the gala never happened, but the gala will happen. And that gala is going to be an incredible party. Whenever we can have an incredible party. And there's something that I always think that I would like to share with you, and that I also would like to share with members of the audience. We all love Beethoven symphonies, right? I mean, what level of genius is needed in order to come up with Beethoven Ninth, in order to come up with Beethoven Third, with Beethoven Violin Concerto, or with the Mozart Piano Concerto? If someone in the middle of Austria was able to come up with these things, we should have hope as a society as to how we're going to come out of this pandemic, of this crazy thing. We must. There is absolutely no way that we cannot have hope. For me, psychologically, it helps to think two things. Maybe this will help one person, me, but I like to say it. In order to keep the hope, you need to know when you're in the middle of the tunnel that there is a way out of the tunnel. And you need to have incredible hope as to what you want to do for others when you are out of the tunnel. So I invite you and all our colleagues to think of how we can help the citizens of New Orleans after this happens. Because if right now people need some kind of help, medical help, financial help, when we're back, they're going to need the help that you can provide with your music. So that's why we cannot sit still. That's why we need to keep working. That's why we need to keep imagining, because there will come a day where that Brandenburg Concerto will reach the heart of people who have been having a very hard time. And if there's ever a time to play that Brandenburg Concerto that we haven't played in 30 years, maybe, is now. And now it'll be needed. So I would like to ask you to say the last things that you want to say so we can wrap this up.
I'd just like to send out blessings to everyone who's going through a hard time, to all those people out there who love New Orleans and cherish our orchestra. Keep the faith, all of you.
Yeah, and I want to tell all the people that took the time to join us tonight, thank you so much for coming and watching this. And it's so great to know that we have fans and friends out there. New Orleans, I always say New Orleans audiences are just so fantastic. They're so supportive and enthusiastic and discerning, and we miss you so much. We can't wait to get back on stage and play for you again. And thank you, Carlos, so much for doing this. It's great to see you and hear you. You're so very inspiring.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Patti. Thank you, Jim. And I invite everyone to tune back next week. Very excited about how this started. We'll keep going next week. And I send you really from the bottom of my heart all my love, and send you a virtual hug, you and the whole audience. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.